r/AskReddit. Retail workers of Reddit. What's your Black Friday horror story? I'm not an employee, but I stood behind a lady at Target who was returning a newly bought iPad. She was livid because her iPad wasn't charging. She claimed that the tablet had Wi-Fi connection to the store and it wasn't charging like it was supposed to. She was told that the cord came with it was the only way to charge it. She balked at the statement and adamantly said that since it's hooked up to Target's free Wi-Fi it should be charging. Sadly this is not the case and left spot not obscenities. Sad to think she thought Wi-Fi charged her iPad. I sometimes wonder about people like this. Thinking how did you get this far in life? By having your weight carried by other people/family throughout your life. About 15 years ago, I was working at a bookstore in a mall. Somehow, around 5 PM maybe, I found myself the only employee in the entire store, not a single coworker to be found. And we were slammed with customers. We usually had music playing in the store, controlled by an ordinary 5 CD stereo in the back office. And of course this is the day the inoffensive holiday music gets brought into circulation. Around the time I found myself alone, I noticed the stereo had become stuck on repeat, just playing the same song over and over. It was at least an hour before I was able to get away from the counter. And so that was the day I was forced to listen to some kind of generic a very jazzy jingleable some 30 times back to back. With one it's not unusual. What's new pussycat? Who? I worked at a grocery store in high school. Black Friday was my favorite day all year. Hardly anyone goes food shopping the day after Thanksgiving. Which is exactly why I did today. Mwahaha. Me too. I live alone. So I just have Thanksgiving a day later. Bought a turkey for 70% off. It was great. I'm eating it and stuffing right now. Haha. Just today I sold a couch to a guy who drove a Prius with no roof rack. We do not deliver and he wouldn't leave until we found a way to get this thing secured to his car somehow. Not only had he clearly not planned ahead or thought it through, he was a total jerk about it and insisted on making it our problem. We ended up using half a spool of twine to tie this thing down and he had to climb in through the window because the twine went through his doors. I really wish I had taken a picture. At one point he complained to our GM, who had no idea what we were supposed to have done to appease this moron. Finally, we insisted that he sign a waiver before leaving because we were not about to be held responsible for his own stupidity. Of course, this was also during the busiest part of the day. I don't mind helping load or tie down for customers, but this guy took the cake. I sold a big gun safe to a guy with a 10-year-old sub who proceeded to literally jump up and down while shaking his fists and screaming at us because the 700-pound piece of metal we just got into the back of his vehicle scratched some trim plastic. Ha ha ha. A guy once insisted on buying a smallish refrigerator or some similarly large, tall stove, maybe, appliance during an ice storm for which it was probably a hit idea for the store to stay open. Like, state of emergency icy highways, duck smaller roads, kind of deal. We helped him shove it onto the truck because we weren't busy and kind of all secretly thought it was amusing. But he was left to tie his own knots, etc. The sidewalk was an ice sheet, so we all had a hell of a time getting it up as it was, since there was little/no traction. Also, he lived apparently half an hour to an hour away in normal weather. People make the weirdest choices. I don't even remember if the damn thing was on sale. Worked greets at American Eagle today. My job was to stand at the front and tell you what the sale was. Some lady walked in with like 8 bags and the alarm went off. So I smiled and said that it went off most likely because there's possibly still a tag on one of her items. This was her response. I just walked in and you're already accusing me of stealing. And then stormed off. Nothing special honestly. Just another day of retail. Yeah. Small Canadian town life. My knowledge of Canada tells me that this is probably the most aggressive thing that's ever happened there. Outside of a hockey rink. I worked at Toys R Us some years ago. No standout bad customers. But it surprised me how many parents brought their young children out at 3 AM and then got mad and would yell at their children for whining/crying because you can't get any toys. Christmas is next month. Ask Santa. Your kid is exhausted and you drag them to a toy store. Of course they're gonna be pissed off. Working there really changed my perspective from being annoyed at hitty kids in public to being annoyed at hitty parents. I saw a woman on Facebook tonight complaining about a local Walmart employee checking her bags and asking out loud if she had item X on her receipt while looking at it and telling Walmart corporate that they ruined Christmas because her daughter was standing right there and had no idea she was getting item X. This took place after midnight. The kid shopped with the parent and stood in line with this cart full of hit. Presumably. I just don't ducking get it. Man. I can't stand those entitled hitheads who whine about their insert holiday/event here being ruined because of a transaction. If you're that fragile, you're ruined already. When I worked at Best Buy I watched two elderly ladies get in a fist fight over a Nintendo DS. That and the cleaning the aftermath of Black Friday. Looked like a grocery store before a hurricane. How grocery store looked like before a hurricane. Edit. I mean guys maybe, just guessing, it doesn't look very different from a grocery store right after a hurricane. Empty shelves. Everything that people think they will need to survive a week trapped at home is gone. Compared to the up north before the blizzard. I saw someone get the crap beaten out of them for the toy of the year. A Hatchimal. My dad was a police officer when the toy of the year was the Tickle Me Elmo. He responded to a call at Walmart or Target, can't remember which one exactly, of two women beating each other up over one. When he went to break up the fight, one of the women bit his arm. She bit him so hard that she actually spit some of his skin and blood out onto the floor. He had to get his blood tested every 6 months for 2 years after the incident to make sure he didn't get any diseases from her. People are ducking crazy. That is insane. It sickens me to see how some people completely throw all their humanity out the window during Black Friday. Duck it. Too many horror stories. I'm gonna give you my last customer from today. I'm a service advisor at a very large Toyota dealership. My typical Q-Toff was rolling around. I usually stop writing cars an hour before my shift ends, but I got a car that came in for a wheel rotation. Wrote it up and immediately got it into the shop. My techs knocked it out lickety-split, and I got it over to the wash. I was bored and wanted it done right, and washed it myself. I even vacuumed the car. Drove the car up to the drive-out section. Called the customer, and turned in the paperwork to be closed out. Asked my boss for some of the Knott's Berry Farms tickets that all Toyota dealerships in Sokol are handing out. And when he came to grab his car I let him know that I was able to wrangle some Knott's tickets for him. His face lit up like Christmas. Hope he has a great holiday season. That was very nice of you, and I bet you made their day. I hope I did. When I was 15 I got my first actual job. It was at a clothing store and my first day was Black Friday. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal because I was hired for men's formal wear. When I show up at 4 AM, the manager tells me I'm working women's shoes today only. Absolute madness. The worst part is shoe salesmen get commission. But since I didn't have employee numbers I got only minimum wage. Losing out of hundreds of dollars extra pay. That's probably why they put the new person on that job. A lot of places do this. Especially places where you have to be part of a union. Most places you gotta wait 3 months to be a part of the union, so they work those people on holidays before that 3-month mark, so they won't have to pay them holiday pay and whatnot. I worked at Walmart during Black Friday about 13 years ago. The hot items that year were $10 DVD players and trampolines. The DVD players were stacked on 2 tables near the registers and the trampolines were in sporting goods. I'm walking to the receiving area in the back and someone from Sporting Goods asks if I can grab a U-boat or L-cart to load up the last trampoline. I had to go all the way to grocery to get one, and as I'm coming back, someone asks about an item, so I walk 2 feet away from my cart and some woman grabs it and runs towards Sporting Goods. I get there, and the woman and husband are loading up the trampoline, and it wasn't even for them. The other lady that had it and purchased it had receipt and all. Just needed a carry out. Said hey, that's mine, and the husband got in her face and said what are you gonna do about it? Itch. They started to walk off, and I was shocked at that point, and the husband looked at me and said, "The duck's your problem?" I just smiled and told the sporting good guy to call management. The husband then said, "Run, honey," and they booked it to the front. They made it out of the store with a trampoline too. Then I get to the front near the $10 DVD players. One older woman grabs the last one left on one of the two tables. Another lady grabs the same one. They scuffle. One lady decks the other one into the other table full of $10 DVD players, and they all fall over and she runs. Never ducking again. Wait, they got away with the trampoline? And they fell on a top of DVD players while fighting over the last one. But I have worked in a Toys R Us. Had a guy know our policy. Walk in and say he wanted his box 360, back when that was a hot item. We unlock it and hand it to him. He just walks out the store. The store policy is to not confront the person. Insurance will cover it, and cameras will let police look for the guy. A stabbed employee trying to be a hero is a PR and worker comp nightmare. It was technically the day after Black Friday, but it was still busy as all hell. I worked as a customer service supervisor at a Comp USA before they closed down. Think Best Buy. And all of my checkers called in sick that morning. All of them. So I'm the only ducking one ringing people up. For the first like 6 hours of the day. When I finally got a 15-minute break, I went into the back area and blew up at the first manager I could find. I was so pissed and stressed. He just sat there and let me vent to him. After a little while I went back to him and apologized to him. And he was cool with it all. That date sucked. Cool manager though. Good managers will see that you've had a hitty day and let it happen. I used to be an assistant at Sonic, while not retail. You still get hit on nasty rushes, and not only would I let an employee rage at me, if I saw they were having a bullshit day and weren't going to vent, I would specifically say or do something to trigger a vent. Worked great until one of them figured it out after putting 2 and 2 together when another employee just tried to be a peen towards me thinking he would get away with it. When I was in school, I worked at Walmart for the holidays. They had a fun agreement where if you worked Thanksgiving 6 PM until Black Friday morning 6 AM, you didn't have to come in Black Friday. Fun, right? So after Thanksgiving lunch with my boyfriend's family at 4 PM, I headed to work where I put on an oversized yellow smock with a blue sun on it. I was put in charge of 70-inch plasma screen television vouchers. I was given 7 vouchers to distribute at 8 PM so customers could go to the register, pay for the television, and have it loaded into their car around back. So problems arose very quickly. A line for the 70-inch television began as I started my shift at 6 PM. As soon as 7 people formed a line, I had to turn people away. At 8 PM, the vouchers were distributed. Customers 1 and 2 were husband and wife. They were an older couple who brought camping chairs to wait for their 2 vouchers. Here's where the mess started. Customer 8 approaches me for a voucher. I tell him that they have all been distributed and he was free to come back within the hour to see if anyone surrendered their voucher. He then becomes visually distressed and angry, to which there was nothing I could do. In comes customer 1 from before. The older man from the couple. He offers to sell his voucher to customer 8 for what was close to the price of the on sale television that had not been purchased. Customer 8 agrees reluctantly, pulls out the money in exchange for the television voucher. The older couple then walks off with not only Mrs. Customer 2's television voucher, but also the newly acquired cash to buy said television at the register. In comes customer 9 who addresses me very angrily with, "Hey you, aren't you going to do something about that?" while gesturing wildly at the older couple who totally scored, and the poor guy who essentially paid double for a Black Friday television. I had to let that customer know that what others did with the vouchers was their business. This guy got way too close to me, and one of my coworkers noticed and came to help. The guy then takes off in a huff and claims Walmart cheated him. 2 months later, I quit to work in my licensed field and never looked back. Years later, still no regrets. I don't even like going into the store I worked at. Wow. Did he think the ticket was for an already paid 40V? Some say he's still waiting. Not retail. But I worked at a restaurant that is right across the street from the mall and open Black Friday, so naturally after people get great deals on whatever they come eat. Anyway, I'm sitting in back of the house Black Friday morning, waiting for my inevitably long shift to start. It was incredibly busy as it was, but I wasn't about to clock in early. I was bsing with one of the managers when I heard a hostess scream through the walkie, "Help, help." So I immediately rushed to the entrance to see two grown men on the ground fighting, one in nothing but his underwear, and my shift lead trying to pull them off each other while screaming, "Duck, and stop. This is a family restaurant, there are children here." I jolted forward in an attempt to break up the fight. This is where it gets weird. Everyone is gathered around this small area watching or trying to help when someone grabbed a fire extinguisher and started spraying us with it. So we have a bunch of people trying to break up a fight between a man in his underwear and some other dude and someone spraying us with a fire extinguisher while we have Christmas carols playing in the background. Finally we get the fight broken up. Cops show up. The whole 9 yards. Turns out the guy got the last TV/voucher or whatever for the Best Buy, and the other guy got pissed and followed him over to try to buy the TV from him. The one who got the TV told him to duck off, so this guy took off his pants and they got into a fight. Guy 1 got the last TV/voucher from Best Buy, and guy 2 was very angry about that. So he followed him over to the restaurant to try and buy the TV from him. Guy 1 told guy 2 to duck off, so guy 2 took off his pants and started to fight guy 1. So this guy took off his pants and they got into a fight. Why would you take off your pants to fight? It's a cunning tactic. Who wants to fight back against a pantsless guy? Ducking, like and subscribe.